So today, for example, if you let's look at the e-commerce space, right? So you have the incumbents Shopee, Lazada, right, in Southeast Asia. But now you have the likes of Temu from PDD coming into the place, TikTok shops that it's now trying to, ruffle feathers. Then you have also, the likes of Shein coming in. So there are always going to be new players coming in, challenging the incumbents. And, with that, obviously, there's going to be disruption in the marketplace.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the $1 Trillion Ads podcast. Here is where we discuss challenges and trends in the $1 trillion ad industry. With me is Jordan Khoo, who has built several ad tech businesses in Asia. And I'm very excited to talk to him about what are the challenges in building ad tech businesses in Asia. So welcome, Jordan. Maybe you could start by saying, how did you land up in advertising?
Sure. Thanks, Jayesh. Super excited to share a little bit about the perspective of the region. My personal journey with this space probably happened about 20 years ago, where we introduced rich media technology in the Southeast Asia space, and we grew the business from supporting the likes of Yahoo and MSN. iBlaster as a company also went through multiple changes, so I was with them for about 10 over years, and iBlaster rebranded to MediaMind, and then went IPO, and then was acquired by another US tech company called DG Fast Channel, and we rebranded to Seismic. Right, that business was taken over by private equity, taken private, and then eventually went to Amazon, right? So Seismic Ad Server, I think it's in the midst of being sunsetted. So that was actually my introduction to the industry, and obviously the last prior to me running my own consulting outfit, I was actually the founding MD for Double Verify for Asia Pac, where I was employee number one. I was the founder MD in the region, opened up 4 offices across Singapore, Australia, India, and Japan. And I left them 2 years from private to IPO, and then built a pretty solid, market leading position for Double Verify in the region. So that was a little bit about my own journey into the adtech space.
So thanks, Jordan, for that intro. So you mentioned that your first company, Seismic, got acquired eventually by Amazon, right? A lot of the action today on ad tech and advertising is around retail media. So do you feel that is the biggest trend today in the advertising industry, or do you feel that there are more avenues for media spend?
I think definitely retail media network is there is a huge upside, right, in terms of where the industry is heading to. Amazon marketplace is one great example. So just Amazon alone, it's a huge ecosystem on its own, and I wouldn't even call it as far as retail media network. Like back in my days in Double Verify, we partnered with Walmart, right, to launch the Walmart media retail network play, help them to sort of power that. And then even like in APAC, I think Woolworths, they launched, and I think closer to home, in Singapore, we have NTUC FairPrice that, has been collaborating with Trade Desk to sort of, again, go into this space. I think it's still early days. There are, a lot more opportunities at hand. And yeah, it's definitely exciting one to look out for.
Okay. So, Jordan, you've built a lot of different businesses in Asia, right? And we also know that Asia is not that big a market like the US, especially when it comes to digital advertising. So could you tell us what were some of the challenges that you faced, especially during your Double Verify time?
So that's a great question, right? If you look at actually APAC, if you include, all markets in, I think we are, the largest, if not, close to the US, right? But you have to include the likes of China. But when you remove China out from the market, yes, then the marketplace becomes a lot more smaller. So usually when you run global businesses, they usually group, North America as one region, EMEA as another one, and then APAC, right? But APAC is not, while it's a region, it's not a homogeneous region, right? Because you have very advanced market like Australia, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, and then you have, upcoming, huge, emerging market powerhouses like Indonesia and India, and then, Southeast Asia. Even though we call Southeast Asia as a region, the dynamics of uh, technology adoptions are very different between, just even between Thailand and Vietnam, right? Neighboring countries, or Singapore and Malaysia, right? So it's definitely, I think the biggest challenge I would say is that it's not a homogeneous region. Just because you crack one single country doesn't mean that you can crack the others.
And how did you solve some of these challenges, right? Is it like doubling down on one before opening another office, or how you could
So
share?
the way, I mean, Singapore is obviously the easiest landing port, right? Because it's a regional hub. A lot of the global regional businesses, have their office here. So this is actually the easiest port to start, right? But from Singapore, then you really need to get into the different markets. One different trend that I can tell you is today, if you don't have a presence in Indonesia, it's very hard to do business because everybody is there, right? And it's still like one of the largest, fastest growing market. And then similarly, like, if you have no presence in Australia, it's very hard to do business because, they support local first. So I would say that while Singapore is the first port of to start with, you really need to start, getting to the different parts of the world where you think that you want to grow, your presence locally in terms of business and support.
So if there's a new player from the US wanting to enter Asia, what would
Yeah.
be your top three suggestions to them?
So it will still be Singapore, Australia, and then depending on whether their solution is there is a market fit for a market like India, or a market fit like for North Asia, right? So that means it's either Japan or Korea. That would be the third potential port of call.
Okay. And would you put sales teams first, or would you also look at customer success and some of these other teams to be based in Asia?
So I think sales is definitely your first port of call, right? Because you want to generate demand and also get your brand and technology introduced to the various market clients. But obviously, you need to have in-market support as well, because nobody likes to deal too often with somebody that is operating on a different time zone, right? So yes to both sales and customer success for sure.
Got it. Okay, so let's move on to a topic which is a very important one for the industry, which is measurement, right? And you
Yeah.
have spent a lot of time in measurement, especially in DV. And I feel like even after 6, 8 years of talking about brand safety, fraud, clickbait, it still seems to be a very big topic or a big problem at a hygiene level, right? So we'll maybe start from this part of measurement and then go a few levels up. So why do you think it exists so much even now?
Well, in my years of doing this trade, there's this saying they said, fraud goes where the money flows, right? And there's always new channel that people are investing in, and where there's a lot of money, that's where a lot of bad players will also go in to try to, take full advantage of, right? With the rise of AI, it's becoming twofold, right? The good thing is, AI is automating a lot of stuff, which is great news for, all of us. But AI is also creating a lot of, misinformation, fake news type of content, right? So I think that's the reason why, like it's an ongoing challenge. And the thing about measurement as well, it's because it's considered like, for a lot of different brands, it's considered like it's a nice to have, it's not a need to have. So there's still a lot of education on people saying like, why do I need to, invest in this? Because the biggest challenge for a lot of brands today is that I want to put as much money as possible into my working media, and a lot of this technology in ad tech is considered like it's a tax layer, right? So what do you prioritize? Like, do I spend 2% on measurement versus do I spend that 2% on building a data clean room, or do I invest in a personalization engine? So those are decisions that brands and agencies have to deliberate with on a daily basis.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, do you feel that at least the measurement companies or the measurement out there for brand safety and the basic hygiene is good, or there's still a lot of leakage?
I think from a technology capability standpoint, what's out in the marketplace today is good, right? It's good, it's strong. Uh, of course, there's always opportunity to optimize, but I don't think that the a lot of brands are still taking it seriously. So if you look at the evolution of brand safety, it is something that was actually really championed by the World Federation of Advertisers, right? And who are in the World Federation of Advertisers? The likes of P&G, Unilever, Mondelez, and the top six agency groups. They're all there, right? So unfortunately, this hasn't been able to sort of push deep into APAC, say one of the largest telcos in the region, and they are not part of WFA, right? And they spend a lot of money in this space, and they don't care as much about brand safety, suitability versus the likes of the CPG giants, right? So I think for me that's an opportunity, right? But at the same time, it's a bit of a disappointment because you would assume that the CMOs of these large local uh, brands would have been a lot more ahead of the trend, and to adopt and to sort of leverage on this, because like brand safety suitability, the better it is, tends to really correlate with better consumer experience, and therefore will drive brand favorability as well as purchase as well. So there is a lot of tangible value correlating to having a better media quality, I would say, on your ad spend.
And what about measurement, which is like, I think there's also now talks on connected TV measurement, which is across all different forms of TV watching, whether you watch it on TV, OTT. So that's become a big issue in many markets, especially Malaysia as well, right? What's the right currency across connected TV? And US has obviously taken you know stabs at it. Australia has done it. But what's your thought on this whole connected TV measurement? Is it evolving? Is it still very early days?
It's still very early days, right? Because in a lot of different parts of Asia, so if you look at the CTV development, I think the most advanced CTV market in this part of the world is actually Australia, right? So I think Australia is really getting their ducks in a row. They are really making a lot of good progress there. I think the measurements challenge on CTV is actually getting the different technology providers to work together, ensuring that the data is syncing correctly. There is no duplication or latency in terms of delivering the overall consumer experience. So I think that's where we are. So today, if let's say I'm Netflix, and everybody wants to buy into my inventory, right? So then I decide, who do I open up from a measurement standpoint. So it's still very much on the supply side advantage. I think as the market becomes more mature, there's going to be more CTV supply into the market. I think that's where the demand for measurement and transparency becomes a lot more effect, right? Because you think about today, if I'm only working with two or three CTV providers, the reporting is still fairly straightforward, right? But if tomorrow I'm going to be dealing with 10, 15 ones, then how do I compare apple to apple, right? You need to again go back to the old way of having like a third party, ad serving tracking to sort of consolidate and have your view across all the different buying channels. So I think that's where the market will actually evolve to.
Yeah, you mentioned that it was tough to kind of convince, non-FMCG global advertisers about measurement of traffic like of metrics like brand safety. What about publishers, right? Even a lot of publishers are oblivious to the fact that a lot of their traffic is maybe bot traffic. How do we solve that problem? Because it kind of creates another challenge that okay, this media doesn't perform or that media doesn't perform because there is still a lot of let's say bot traffic. And do you think AI is an answer?
I think I mean, today, if you look at generally publishers overall, a lot of publishers are hurting, right? Especially the open web guys because they're just getting crushed by the various wall garden as well as different SSPs, DSP play coming in to sort of disintermediate their value proposition, and then you throw in issues like MFA and brand safety or ad fraud concerns. They are getting challenged from all angles, right? So I think what I've seen is when I talk to publishers, it's they have to figure out, how what will bring them more sales, right? You have to be creative in terms of your media solutions, whether is it um, including your audience segments or even throwing in creative solutions, right? So you really just can't run a regular video ad, but if it means like doing a splashy homepage takeover that gives you that brand impact, I think those things still have a lot of value, and I think that's where the open web publishers can still continue to play a part to justify their proposition to brands, right? Uh, it's when the open web publishers generally try to compare themselves against hardcore performance engine like say a Facebook targeting ad. That's where they will fall short, right? But if each publishers know their real value proposition, understand their audience, and how they can actually connect better with their advertisers, I think they will still have a very strong proposition.
You also mentioned the role of data and segments and matching it, and probably even using data clean room, which is again a emerging technology for advertisers. Again, what's your view on data collaboration in this part of the world using clean room? Is it mature? And secondly, there is in markets like SE, it's very difficult to charge for that data. And given that you have sold measurement and data solutions before, what would be your recommendation to both sides of the industry?
I think data proposition as like there's the new saying, right? Data is the new oil, right? Like how do you really monetize the data? It really depends on what kind of data you have and if there is value to those data, right? So if certain clients have got e-commerce data, for example, like purchase intent, or you have access to consumer purchase behavior where that somebody have made a diaper purchase 6 months ago, those are going to be really valuable, right? So it really depends on what data you have, and of course, there must be a real value proposition that you can offer to advertisers. If there is that real value proposition, then yes, right, for sure that there is value there. But if your data doesn't have any tangible value prop to sort of enrich the random media buys that advertisers is buying, then the answer will be no, right? So it's still early days, but I think there is a lot of promise here. There is a lot of like new technology emerging, whether is it leveraging on a shared CDP, or leveraging on the data clean room. I think Trade Desk is obviously trying to push their UID 2.0. So there are many different initiatives that is still trying to stick a claim, and in terms of which technology would be the most market leading. But yeah, it's early days, and it's land grab for now.
And do you see like maybe two large publishers joining hands and creating scale to compete with the big tech using this kind of data collaboration? Do you see that as a possibility or is it already happening?
So obviously today, I think the Google Ads Data Hub has the biggest use case, right? Because If you look at Google's Ads Data Hub, they have obviously all their owned and operated assets, like their GDN, YouTube and all. At the same time, they also have adtech technologies, right? Like DV360. Everybody, which I would say 80% of the large global brands are using. So I think the Google Ads Data Hub has a very strong proposition. But I think trade desks have always championed an independent open web solution, right? So I'm pretty sure that they will do something there. Then of course, LiveRamp being the most prominent of players as well is doing something. So I think the space is still relatively new, and I think there are gonna be a lot of different new technologies that's coming in to sort of changes the market dynamics.
Understood. So we talked a lot about ad tech, but one of your other interests is the whole fundraising, investment, M&A side, which you're working on, right? So you could talk about M&A trends as well as what are some of the companies that people are looking to buy in Asia.
I think right now the e-commerce, anybody with data that can be monetized, anybody that's data or first-party data, there's always an interest there. I think the e-commerce space is still, there's still a very exciting space because I think e-commerce overall really just exploded over the last couple of years, right? So I think so, and of course, e-commerce today, you can also talk about extending it to retail media. The other trend that obviously people are looking at is around, live shopping, KOL, influencer, management. So it's more of, I think, this kind of technology play right now. In terms of, for me personally, is I've always been curious about meditech where you can potentially prolong like longevity, early cancer detection. I think just last week I was reading there was a I think there are a lot of very interesting development in this early stage, cancer detection, right? There was a company that was founded in Singapore. I think they've just gotten some FDA approval in the US to offer this in the US. I think it was founded by the Razer CEO's brother. So, there's a lot of these interesting things that really changes the world that I'm super excited about.
So you're not so excited about ad tech anymore.
I mean, if you ask me right now, in terms of ad tech, I haven't seen, anything that is super exciting in this space that can actually, change the dynamics, right? Like, and if you look at the last 2 years, what has happened is actually the tech meltdown have really impacted, investment into this space, right? Like, I spoke to a lot of different US based ad tech companies, and they are struggling to raise money for global expansion, right? Everybody is focusing on their home market, trying to, just trying to be profitable, and once when the interest rate starts to come down, and when VCs and PE loosen the purse strings, that's where I think you will see more investment back into the region.
And what about AI? You didn't mention that as an opportunity. There is a lot of work happening, especially on the agency side on AI to streamline operations.
Yeah,
So
so AI is definitely a huge opportunity, but I think AI today isn't so much about building another AI Me Too solution, right? There's already a lot of very mature AI solution out there, whether it's from OpenAI or the Microsoft's AI, or the Google AI, or even Meta's AI. So a lot of companies are really now leveraging on the existing AI technology to drive efficiency. Like you rightly pointed out, I think a lot of agencies have sort of reduce a lot of the manual process that used to be farm out to their operations hub, and these tasks today are being done by AI, right? Like for some of the companies that I'm consulting with, AI have really scale up in terms of the content language categorization, right? Like where you used to need to have linguistic expert to sort of look at the different languages to make sense in terms of its brand safety suitability. Today, AI is doing a lot of it a lot more efficiently. So departments that used to have like 10 people now only need to have two, right? Because 80% of the work has now being done by AI. So yeah, a lot of really good use cases of AI today that is really changing efficiency for companies, which also means that it's actually driving what I don't know, I don't even know what's the word to call it, like the industrialization age today, like is the age of AI where a lot of jobs have been made redundant because of AI.
Yeah, that's always that talk. If you go to any conference, will AI take up your job?
Yeah.
Is a common theme, right? But it's all about utilizing it in the right workflow and the efficiency that it provides. And yeah, so I understand from an agency standpoint, and also publishers are using AI, CMS, content management, all of that. So, but increasingly AI also, especially some of the controversy around Google's Performance Max, right, which became, I mean, it is an AI enabled solution, but it's also being said that it's a black box and it benefits the big tech in some way. What's your thought on that?
I think all the concerns that you raise are very valid, right? I'm in complete agreement that I think it's a black box technology. I think especially for agency folks and agency friends, like they are in this very tricky situation where if they you know work too much with a lot of this AI solution, technically the role for the agency folks are made redundant, right? Like what is stopping the likes of Google to just go straight to the agent's client and say, hey, you know what, just plug this tag in and you're good to go, right? Like you don't need the day-to-day agency setup anymore, right? Because the technology works and all. So that's the challenge that I see that agency faces when it comes to adopting the AI tech for a lot of the large companies, especially like you rightly pointed out, it's today a black box, right? AI is as good as the information that you feed, right? If you put in garbage in, you'll get garbage out. So AI drift is also, a risk, right? Because if you implement it wrongly, then the repercussion is actually very detrimental to the brand as well as the agency.
Got it. Lastly, on performance, right? I mean, we spoke about performance advertising through AI. There's still a lot of affiliate marketing, affiliates which happen in Asia, right? And you've worked to some extent on the e-commerce affiliate side. Do you still see that as a big revenue opportunity or a channel given how e-commerce is evolving, or do you feel that coming down over a period of time?
I I think if you look historically, right, like I think from the last 20 years to today, e-commerce is still or affiliate business is still 30% of ad spend, right? And if you look at APAC, Asia as a whole, of course, e-commerce have accelerated the last couple of years, but I don't see the trend where consumers are now, stopping e-commerce and, going traditional, right? Like, I think it's gonna be people are just gonna make the e-commerce purchase experience as simple as it can possibly be. A lot more, services that you used to have to procure offline, you can now do it online. So I don't see affiliate going away. It's the actually still the most efficient way of doing business because you deliver a sales, you get a commission, right? So today, for example, if you let's look at the e-commerce space, right? So you have the incumbents Shopee, Lazada, right, in Southeast Asia, but now you have the likes of Temu from PDD coming into the place. TikTok shops that it's now trying to ruffle feathers. Then you have also the likes of Shein coming in. So there are always going to be new players coming in challenging the incumbents, and with that obviously there's going to be disruption in the marketplace. And somebody who has got incentives to win more market share, they will be incentivized to actually funnel more funds into the affiliate space. So long story short, I would say that it's still a very dynamic space, and I think affiliate is definitely one of the best way to sort of leverage on the growth of e-commerce transactions in the region overall.
Understood. I thanks Jordan for your inputs. It's been really wonderful talking to you, and I'm sure the listeners would know more about how to set up businesses in APAC from you. So thank you for your time, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Jayesh.